Good day, class. I welcome you all to today's facilitation. My name is Dr. Amadi your course lecturer for this course, EDM 122, Introduction to Pre-Colonial Education Policies in Nigeria. It is a 2-unit compulsory course. This is the foundation section. For this course, you have read the course guide and have known what is expected in this course. Introduction. You already agree that pre-colonial education is a blessing to West African countries. Can you imagine if these people had not stepped their footprints to West African nations? Really, what could have been the fate of Western education in Nigeria? Our dear country could still have been languishing with some of our primitive cultures. Indeed, pre-colonial education policies in Nigeria necessitated the background of administration and supervision of education in Nigeria. Because of its importance, therefore, the study of pre-colonial education policies in Nigeria becomes worthwhile. In this study session, you will learn the background to educational development in Nigeria, looking at education under the missionaries and the contribution of the missions. Other areas of interest are the Islamic education system and the colonial education system. Also to be part of the discussions are the contributions of various agencies to the development of education in Nigeria, background to educational law and policies in Nigeria, and the stages of the emergence of the present structure of the Nigerian education system. Please sit back and listen to this wonderful historical session. Your learning outcomes. After you have studied this session, you should be able to discuss the educational development in Nigeria, explain the contributions of various agencies to the development of education in Nigeria, also explain the development of education policy in Nigeria, discuss Lord Lugard's education policy, explain the rationale for educational laws, and discuss the purposes of educational laws. Let's look at overview of educational development in Nigeria. The system and administration of education in Nigeria, as it is today, has been the result of a gradual process which dates back to the coming of the Europeans. Similarly, the administration and management of education in Nigeria reflects the earlier impact of the various agencies such as the missionaries, the British colonial government, and the Nigerians themselves. Each of these groups made some useful contributions to the system, and each left some footprints that have adversely guided educational administration and supervision in Nigeria. Historically speaking, the first people to bring formal education to West Africa and indeed to Nigeria were the missionaries. Both the early Portuguese traders and the anti-slavery movement did not engage in formal education for the natives. When the missionaries came, they noticed that they needed to train the people to read and write in order to help them to interpret the Bible and preach the gospel of evangelism. Consequently, the first step to formal education was the training of preachers and catechists on how to read and write in the mission Bible centers and Sunday school classes. The first school was established in 1842 by the Wesleyan Missionary Association, which later known as Methodist Mission, under Reverend Thomas B. Freeman, that was in Badagry. The first school was named the Nursery of the Infants. These were followed by the United Presbyterian Church of Scotland group led by Reverend Hope Waddell. One of their earliest schools was the Hope Waddell Training Institution, established for training of the teachers, that was the catechists. The Church Missionary Society came to Nigeria at this time also, made very quick and expansive progress in establishing many schools in southern Nigeria. The first school was the Anglican Grammar School in Lagos. The American Baptist Mission, led by Thomas Bowen, established schools in Lagos, Ogbomoso, Oyo, Shaki, and Ilorin. The Roman Catholic Mission, which joined the competition at the time, made a tremendous impact on Nigerian education. Their earliest college was St. Gregory's College in Lagos, established in 1876. The Roman Catholics crossed the Niger into places like Onitsha and moved up to Lokoja. Let's look at the contributions of the missions. While the missionaries were criticized for the extreme high rivalry and competition, which tended to divide the natives and created unhealthy social divisions among the people, they made a tremendous contribution to Nigerian education. For example, they started formal education in Nigeria. They created a primary, secondary modern, secondary grammar, and teacher training institutions, in addition to other types of schools like Bible colleges, nursery schools, charity schools, and seminaries. They began the system of training and use of local people as teachers. They supported the schools with funds from church collections, local and foreign donations, and contributions from charitable organizations. They elevated the standard of morality and discipline among the natives through their religious preachings. Let's look at the Islamic contribution to educational system. Islam, by its nature, is a form of religion, a system of government, and a form of education. The Islamic system of education differs from that of the Christian missions. The Islamic leader Amir el-Munini, or Saki Muslimi, was the head of the entire system. Islam had become an established religion in northern Nigeria by the 14th century. That was almost 500 years before the Christian missions came to the south. Wow! Islamic education was administered through local authorities, acting for the Islamic leader on such matters as appointment of teachers, malams, establishment of schools or Quranic schools, and setting up a program of study. By 1914, there were about 25,000 Quranic schools in Nigeria, mainly in the north and part of the west. The British colonial government was cautious and reluctant to be involved in the management and control of education in Nigeria. That is now the colonial education system. The question now is why? Until the late 1860s, the missions remained supreme in the administration and control of education in Nigeria. When the colonial government later took interest in education, it did so by giving indirect support to the missions. Hence, the popular saying that in the development of education in Nigeria, the flag followed the cross. The flag meaning the British colonial government, and the cross means the missions. Now, the development of education policy, which is the main topic for our discussion. As the British colonial influence in West Africa became stronger, there was great need for well-trained natives to assist in running the colonial administration system in the provinces. The colonial government was forced to find a way of ensuring that the right types of people were trained in the schools. Therefore, the colonial government began to give grants in aid to the various missionary groups for the running of schools, on the condition that such missions fulfill the policies of the colonial government. The first such colonial policy on education was the 1882 Education Ordinance. This ordinance was meant for the entire British West African territory. The ordinance provided for an inspectorate of education for West Africa, with its headquarters in the Gold Coast, that is presently Ghana, and from where the schools in the territory will be inspected. The first purely Nigerian education ordinance was the 1887 ordinance. This ordinance contains certain principles wey lay the foundation for education policy and law in Nigeria. It created a board of education comprising the governor, members of the legislative council, the inspector of schools, and 4 members nominated by the governor. The other education ordinances followed the pattern of the 1887 ordinance, but each of them added 1 or 2 things that increased the involvement of the colonial government. The 1892 education ordinance appointed for the first time in Nigeria Henry Carr as inspector of schools. The 1903 education ordinance created separate departments of education for the southern provinces of Nigeria. The 1908 education ordinance created separate education boards for the eastern, western, and the central provinces of Nigeria. Now, the following are the education ordinances passed by the colonial government to ease the control of schools. These include the 1882 Education Ordinance, the 1887 Education Ordinance, the 1892 Education Ordinance, the 1903 Education Ordinance, the 1908 Education Ordinance, the 1914 Law Lugas Education Policies, the 1916 Education Ordinance, the 1925 Memorandum on Education in British Colonial Territories, the 1926 Education Ordinance, the 1935 Memorandum on Education of African Communism, the 1946 Arthur Richards Constitution on Education, the 1951 Macpherson's Constitution, the 1952 Education Ordinance, and lastly, the 1954 to 1957 Regional Laws. Hence, these ordinances will be the subject of discussion in subsequent study sessions. Self-assessment question. List some of the education ordinances passed by the colonial government in the control of schools. Some of the ordinances as we mentioned are 1882 Education Ordinance, 1887 Education Ordinance, 1892 Education Ordinance, 1960 Education Ordinance, amongst others. In conclusion, as I said, that the system and administration of education in Nigeria dates back to the coming of the Europeans. The colonial government began to give grants in aid to the various missionary groups for the running of the schools, on the condition that such missions fulfill the policies of the colonial government. And the first such colonial policy on education was the 1882 Education Ordinance. Hence, the birth of other education policies and ordinances, decrees, and edicts. On a final note, as I always tell my students, the DLI program or the ODLI program offers you the opportunity to study anytime, anywhere, any place. I thank you all for listening.